everything. Do you ever wonder how to? Do you ever wonder why? About anything and everything. Then Doris is your guide. Anything and everything will open your mind. Anything and everything with Doris. Anything and everything with Doris is online. Remember, anything and everything with Doris.
Hello everyone and welcome. You are listening to the Anything and Everything with Doris podcast, and I am your host, Doris. This episode is brought to you by WYSK Spark Radio, where they play uplifting music to get you through the day. You can find it on Live 365 Spark Radio. Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you're having a blessed day. I got a very interesting email, only one, and I know why now, but asking about had I ever heard of Cotard delusion. No, I have not. I've worked in internal medicine. I've worked with the elderly. I've worked in holistic medicine. Working in the medical field, even though you deal with a lot of physical illnesses or, physical symptoms, you will run into neurological issues like anxiety, depression, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, bulimia. You'll run into all kinds of different things. But maybe if I would have worked in psychology, psychiatry, maybe I would have run into it. But it's highly unlikely that I would have, because it's so rare that there's only been 200 known cases worldwide. And that's why I understand I only got one email about it. I'm really fortunate to even get one. That's how rare this is. And so I thought, you know what? This would be something to learn about. Who knows? Maybe one of y'all knows somebody like this and didn't know that there's actually a name for it. Cotard delusion, also known as walking corpse syndrome, or Cotard syndrome, or maybe you heard of nihilistic delusion. It's all the same. Was first described by the French neurologist and psychiatrist Dr. Jules Cotard in 1882. It covers a series of psychotic delusions ranging from a person's belief that they have lost all their internal organs to their certainty that they are actually dead. Now, psychosis is when a person departs with reality in some way. Cotard syndrome is an example of that. And New York City psychiatrist Margaret Seed, MD, was telling Health magazine that when a person has Cotard syndrome, they have an extreme sense of nihilism, the belief that life is meaningless. It's important to differentiate between a hallucination and a delusion. A hallucination is when you experience something in one of your five senses: touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. That is not real, such as hearing voices. However, a delusion is when you believe something that is not real. It is a fixed, false belief, not in keeping with social norms. People can have a delusion of any kind, but with Cotard delusion there is a common theme: a firm belief that part of or all of your body is dead or decaying. It's not clear how many people suffer from this disorder, but it definitely is not common. It's rare to develop such a deep, firm delusion. And California-based psychiatrist and author Guyana de Silva, MD, tells Health, other delusions reported by Cotter delusion patients include denial of pregnancy, denial of their own name or age, denial of their capacity to walk or eat, and or denial of the existence of their parents, partners, children, or even the world at large. While the exact cause of Cotter delusion is unknown, Dr. De Silva says it can be a symptom of severe depression. When people experience a severe major depression, they can often develop psychotic symptoms like auditory or visual hallucinations, vague paranoid thoughts, or delusions. The main cause is thought to be genetic with no known external precipitating factors. It may also be a precursor to schizophrenia. Cotter delusion is also associated with some neurological health conditions such as migraines, dementia, and epilepsy. According to an article published in the Journal of Neurosciences in Rural Practice in 2014, Cotter delusion is thought to be less common than it used to be, possibly because people with severe depression who display psychotic symptoms get the treatment they need at an earlier stage. Because a person with Cotter delusion has a fixed belief, they won't respond to reasoning. You can't talk them out of it. Someone struggling with this condition will experience extreme distress. It is important to emphasize that the person really and truly understands this to be their reality, according to Dr. Seed. However, Cotter delusion is relatively easy to diagnose. The first step is to take a thorough history. Questions should be designed to bring to light the delusions associated with the condition. For the patient, this is their truth, so they typically will openly share their story of feeling that they are deceased even while talking to you. And at that point, the diagnosis may be conclusively made, according to Dr. Seed. In some cases, the delusion may have some underlying truth to it. Dr. Silva recalls that she once cared for an elderly man with the delusion that his neighbor was stabbing his chest wall and poisoning him. As it turned out, he had a cancerous mass in his chest wall that caused him pain and made him nauseous. He incorporated his real physical illness into his delusional beliefs. Now, while Dr. De Silva hasn't had any patients with the full delusion that they are dead, she has cared for many people who believed that parts of their body were not alive or that they were decaying. It is very distressing to these people that she takes all delusions seriously, understanding that though it is a delusion, the story may have some factual basis. The patient may not know how to describe their physical concerns in a more realistic way due to their mental illness. It's crucial that medical providers listen beyond the initial story to find the underlying issues and give the proper care. Cotter delusion usually occurs in tandem with other conditions, which can influence treatment options. Now, a 2012 article published in Case Reports in Psychiatry suggests that electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT, can help. People who undergo ECT are put under general anesthesia, after which doctors pass electric currents through the brain to create seizures. It's a known treatment for depression that may help Cotter delusion patients as well. ECT can be risky though, potentially triggering memory problems, confusion, nausea, and body or muscle aches. So other treatment options may be considered first, such as prescription medications like antidepressants, antipsychotics, and mood stabilizers. Behavioral therapy and psychotherapy are also treatment options. While Cotard delusion can be treated successfully, it may take time to find the right method. And it doesn't mean every person who has it will end up free from the grip of their delusion. Now, I don't know about you, but I find this to be interesting. I want to know more about these cases. What are these people going through? Now, I understand it's possibly linked today to being bipolar or schizophrenic, and of course depressed. You'd have to be depressed if you thought you were dead. So I did a little digging and I found a few cases and I've shortened them up a little bit. The earliest one seems to be around 1788, where Charles Bonnet recorded an elderly woman was preparing a meal when she felt a draft and then became paralyzed on one side of her body. When feeling, movement, and the ability to speak came back to her, she told her daughters to dress her in a shroud and place her in a coffin. For days she continued to demand that her daughter's friends and maid treat her like she was dead. So what do? They finally gave in, putting her in a shroud and laying her out so that they could mourn her. And even at the wake, the lady continued to fuss with her shroud and complain about its color. Now, when she finally did fall asleep, her family undressed her and put her to bed. Afterward, she was treated with a powder of precious stones and opium, and her delusions went away, only to return every few months. Now, some 100 years after Bonnet met the old lady, there was this French neurologist, Jules Cotard, who saw a patient with an unusual complaint. Mademoiselle X. That's what Cotard called her in his notes. And she claimed to have no brain, no nerves, no chest, no stomach, and no intestines. Despite this predicament, she also believed that she was eternal and would live forever. Now, since she was immortal and didn't have any innards anyway, she didn't see a need to eat and soon died of starvation. Now, Cotard's description of the woman's condition spread widely and was very influential, and the disorder was eventually named after him. Now, let's jump into more recent times. Greek psychiatrist received a patient in 2003 who believed he was literally empty-headed. He had attempted suicide years earlier because he thought it wasn't worth living since he didn't have a brain. He was not treated after the incident and simply returned to work. Once at the hospital, he claimed that he was born without a mind, meaning that his head is empty without a brain, and for this reason he is retarded. He left against medical advice after several days and was readmitted the next year. This time he completed treatment and showed sustained improvement in a follow-up interview months later. Now, in 2008, New York psychiatrists reported on a 53-year-old patient that they called Miss Lee. She complained that she was dead and smelled like rotting flesh. She asked her family to take her to a morgue so that she could be with other dead people. Well, of course, they dialed 911. Miss Lee was admitted to the psychiatric unit, where she then accused the paramedics of trying to burn her house down. After a month or so of drug regimen, she was released with great improvement in her symptoms. And then, in 1996, there was a Scottish man who suffered head injury in a motorcycling accident and began to believe that he had died from complications during his recovery. Now, not long after he completed recovery, he and his mother moved from Edinburgh to South Africa. Now, the heat, he explained to his doctors, confirmed his belief because only hell could be so hot. And finally, in 2005, Iranian doctors described what may be the most unusual case recorded. A 32-year-old man arrived at their hospital saying that not only was he dead, but that he had been turned into a dog. He said that his wife had suffered the same fate. His 3 daughters, he believed, had also died and had turned into sheep. He said that his relatives had tried to poison him, but that nothing could hurt him because God protected him even in death. He was diagnosed with Cotard's and clinical lycanthropy, treated with electroconvulsive therapy, and relieved of his major symptoms. And you can find many other stories if you go ahead and look up Cotard's delusion or walking corpse disorder or even nihilistic delusion. You'll be able to find several different stories that go way back, and some are quite current, as you can see. I imagine it's also rare because I think that there may be a lot of psychiatrists out there that might not have ever heard of this, and so they just chalk that up to schizophrenia or bipolar or some other form. So if you do hear of somebody that's talking about their dad, or, parts of their body are dead or dying or whatever, now you know because you've heard of such a thing. And I found it very interesting, actually. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'll leave some links below of some other places where you could find some other stories. And you could just check it out for yourself. Thank you for listening, and God bless.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening, and until we meet again, enjoy every day to its fullest. Anything and Everything with Doris is produced by Your Own Production Incorporated and comes out a few days a week, so come on back. If you have an idea for a topic, you can reach us by email at yopi@post.com. Also, check us out on our social media pages by checking out all links below. Need a good laugh? Subscribe to our YouTube channel found in the links below, where you can watch our skits, video pods, and listen to our podcast all in one place. See you there. If you would like to support all that we offer, feel free to donate any amount your heart is comfortable with at paypal.me/YOPI Studio, or just click on the link below. Check our show notes below for all references and links mentioned. And as always, we thank you for joining us today. God bless.